some social media trends regarding Roku going into its earnings release here. Andy, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. This is always a fun one going into earnings because of the binary nature on kind of the future outlook for this one by so many people. So many people, I think, on the more bearish side and negative about this one, and others very, very positive. I'm interested to see what your data is showing.
Yeah, from an investor standpoint, definitely pretty binary in terms of expected outcomes. I think when LikeFolio looks at a company like Roku, we like to look at it a little bit holistically and understand its place in the streaming segment in general. And so, we see streaming mentions of people, talking about streaming content up 160% this quarter, which is really no surprise since everyone's kind of locked in their homes. But also from a device perspective, that's at plus 43% on a year-over-year basis for the last quarter. And Roku especially doing a really nice job. We see the current quarter pace popping at plus 55% year-over-year. The quarter they're about to report plus 33% year-over-year. So this is the leader in a rising tide industry, and we think Roku's really well positioned to do a great job into the future. We've thought this since the stock was at 40. Again, it's kind of the same story. We say this a lot on this show with some of these, like you said, binary bets. I don't know if the stock is worth 113 or 180 or 60. But what I do know is that people love their Roku devices. Demand for the devices and for the software is rising at a very, very significant pace. And the company is in an industry that is rising in a very significant way in terms of consumer demand. So a lot of tailwinds behind Roku as we head into this earnings report for sure.
Andy, some of the discussion about Roku is just trying to figure out how they relate to some of these others. I see your one chart here where you compare Roku with Fire Stick and Apple TV. Are these three names that you have up here on your chart, are they competitors? Does Apple TV use Roku? How does their relationship between these three TVs or these three services, how do they interact, or are they pure competitors?
There's a big competitive nature to the three of these. Each of these companies makes a device that you can use to stream over the top to your television set. You can stream content from the internet. We are seeing a threat to Roku develop from Apple TV, and it's mostly related to the content that Apple TV is putting out. I think they have a documentary on the Beastie Boys that's very popular. They had, I think it was called The Morning Show, which was extremely popular. And it had Jennifer Aniston in it, among others. So that's doing very well for Apple. And yeah, you can see it's kind of Amazon TV taking it on the chin here as, Roku maintains popularity and is the go-to device. One thing that this doesn't really capture, this is talking about the devices. What this doesn't really capture is the fact that Roku software is built into a vast majority of television sets that are sold in the United States today. So they don't need to win the race in terms of selling devices. Their software is in the monitors that are going out the door at Costco and at Walmart every single day. And in fact, I think earlier this week was the first time I'd ever seen, when I looked at Amazon's top 10 selling TVs, all 10 of them had Roku installed on them. So Roku doing a very good job on the partnership front and getting more and more users onto its platform, which I think will be a big driver as we head into the earnings call.
No, it's a great point, Andy. As it was kind of an example of this company's ability to be, forward thinking and nimble as those, smart TV boxes or the Apple TV devices, the Roku traditional device, or the Fire Stick. That's kind of a stopgap piece of technology that at some point is going to be obsolete as these newer devices are coming out with the technology built in, whether it's a Samsung TV, an LG TV, or a TCL Roku TV, whatever it might be. Most TVs now being developed have this technology built in, and those devices are less and less relevant But I do, you point out their ability to partner with these companies. I think that was crucial for this company to continue to have that brand recognition associated with streaming. And really what they are now is an advertising company for these different streaming content providers and an aggregator of all these different services into one place that's easy to use with a user experience that I believe from our prior conversations is fairly, well accepted and well received. My question to you, though, comes back to Apple. As Apple also has a way of aggregating these different contents now, I just can see that from use of an iPhone. They now have kind of this folder through their TV app, not Apple TV, but just their TV app that kind of seems to be doing a lot of the same things that Roku is trying to do, at least from the mobile front. Is that a potential threat to have a player like Apple kind of, coming into their lane a little bit?
Yeah, the short answer is absolutely. It is a big threat. I think Roku has the lead in terms of the TVs or monitors that go on your wall, and I think Apple has an even bigger, more established moat in terms of the monitors that you carry with you in your pocket or in your bag in terms of an iPad or laptop. And so that's definitely the battle right now. I think from what we see, I think there's room for multiple winners. I don't, we've seen how both Hulu and Netflix and HBO and a lot of streaming content providers, Disney Plus, can be successful in this space because the demand from the consumer is growing so fast. I don't think it's just a winner-take-all situation. But Roku does have very significant technology in terms of personalization of ads that it can push through its platform. You can kind of think of them as a Google or a Facebook of streaming television, where they're learning what each individual user likes and doesn't like on an anonymous basis, and then able to tell advertisers they can serve up streaming ads to streaming content viewers in a really targeted way that others just haven't been able to figure out yet. And so I think that's Roku's big advantage going forward. We'll have to see on the conference call how much usage they're getting and how much the coronavirus shutdowns have impacted marketing budgets. But long term, we continue to like Roku just as we did a year ago.
Kevin, one of the reasons that this company is so often talked about here on the TD Ameritrade Network is because the retail client, the retail TD Ameritrade trader, a lot of them focus on this particular name just simply because it is a volatile name. It is a growth stock within that space that we know is so much in the headlines right now with streaming and cutting the cord and everything involved. That Roku is kind of one of the main players in that space, and to Andy's point, maybe the main player in terms of aggregation and providing access to the content. But Kevin, it's had an incredible move over the last year, trading from the mid 60s up to 176, back down to the mid 110s, back up to 160, and then of course in this move sub 60, and now all the way back to 133. So this is not one for the weak hands or the ones that are a little bit more cautious when it comes to risk.
Yeah, and everyone's fear in this sector or this space or in general when you're talking to a growth company is, are they going to make it long term, right? Is Roku going to be the winner? I believe I asked Andy once on this network talking about Roku, just give me the name of the winner. I want the winner and I'll choose that one, but I don't want to choose the loser that's going to go out of business and I have to get another one. Well, the data that Andy just gave you with the fact that the top 10 selling TVs on Amazon all have Roku in there, that means that this company has arrived and they're not going anywhere. So it's just a matter of how big they get and how much penetration. And so they're off and running. So I think they've crossed and over that hurdle of, are they going to make it? And I think the answer is yes, unless obviously something can come along and make them obsolete, as with any company in this space. But it looks like right now they're a leader and they're here to stay. So, but they still have to find a way to get profitable. I still don't see a quarter in the last 4 that they actually made money. So I really like companies that make money or have a path to profitability. The market kind of does too. So that may be why when this whole market did sell off, it got punished. But this is a name that clearly isn't going anywhere, guys.
Well, Andy,
Yeah,
one thing's for sure is that it's appeared to be resilient. Go ahead.
well, I'll tag on to Kevin's point there. I think the path to profitability, the path to making money in Roku is its user base. And then you also have to remember this statistic, which I find one of the most mind-blowing statistics in all of technology. And that is, and I'm going to use rounded numbers here, but that is 3% of advertising dollars right now are going to the streaming space where Roku lives and dominates. But 30% of television viewing is done via streaming. And so you've got that enormous gap where there's naturally a tenfold increase coming in the marketing dollars that will come into streaming if streaming stays popular with users. And so that's the path to profitability. That's Roku's strategy, is a massive land grab, great technology for advertisers, and then sit back and wait for advertisers to figure out that most of the money that they're spending is being wasted because eyeballs are on streaming and not on traditional cable TV. And that natural closing of that gap, is a massive deal for Roku. And if it comes to fruition, that's where the path to profitability surely lies.